After everything that's happened this week for Meghan Markle and Prince Harry when it comes to the Archewell Foundation, are they finally going to be audited by the IRS? Well, I've done some research and it ain't looking good for the gruesome twosome. Hey up everyone, it's me, Stef the Alternate, your nerdy alternative, and welcome to another dose of the Daily Nerd, where I break down the royal news and gossip of the day that's pretty much caught me eye, and oh my goodness, yeah, let's jump into this one, shall we? So the Archewell Foundation, beginning of this week, it was reported that they were registered as delinquent by the Attorney General over in California. Now they're not anymore, however. Could the Archewell Foundation now be audited by the IRS? Well, like I said, it is not looking good for Megsy and Hazza. Let me show you my research and you guys can decide. So there's three types of audits I found out that can be done by the IRS. So there's a mail audit. So the client, as in, let's say, Archewell Foundation here, receives a letter from the IRS requesting specific information to be faxed or mailed back. There is an in-person office audit. So here, in this scenario, Archewell Foundation is required to visit, so to go to the IRS and meet with a designated agent and conduct the audit. Or there's a third type, which is an in-person field audit, where an assigned IRS agent goes the other way and visits, in this scenario, Archewell Foundation or the accountant's office to conduct the audit there. Now, what could trigger an audit? Okay, what could trigger the IRS to come over to the Archewell Foundation and audit the absolute hell out of them? Well, exactly pretty much what's happened this week with the Archewell Foundation, the Form 990 situation. So the IRS uses aggregate Form 990 data to target areas of concern or non-compliance, assuming forms are completed accurately. When the Form 990 is submitted with incomplete or inaccurate information, it gives the appearance of a non-compliant organisation. Or, if they don't send in the check, it could give the appearance of a non-compliant organisation. The IRS has stated that this conclusion may lead to an examination, which is an audit. The IRS also uses Form 990 to identify governance issues that they feel can lead to non-compliance, i.e., again, not sending the check over. The numerous questions in the 990 related to board and management governments provide the IRS with insight into organisations that may be more likely to have issues that should be examined. Do you think the Archewell Foundation should be examined? Opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever. I definitely do. And here from the IRS website itself, they say, look, in some circumstances, an exempt organisation may be selected for audit or review even though it has not filed a return, either because it has no filing requirement or it has not filed a required return, which would include sending the check over with said filed return, right, guys? And so here we're then looking at, look, what kind of check then are we looking at here potentially for the Archewell Foundation? So there's two. You've got examination check and compliance check, okay? So the IRS conducts examinations authorized under Section 7602 of the IRS Code. An examination is a review of a taxpayer's books and records to determine tax liability. May involve the questioning of third parties for exempt organisations. An examination also determines an organisation's qualification for tax-exempt status. So when they're audited by the IRS, their tax-exempt status is totally on the line. So a compliance check is a review to determine whether an organisation is adhering to record keeping and information reporting requirements, and is not an examination since it does not directly relate to determine a tax liability for any particular period. Now, in this instance, I would say that if the IRS is going to audit Archewell Foundation, it's going to be a compliance check, because as far as we're concerned, because of the delinquency notice that was applied to Archewell Foundation earlier on this week, it indicates that their record keeping potentially are not being adhered to, and their information reporting requirements potentially are not being adhered to, because quite frankly, they didn't receive the check. So why did they not follow the requirements of the IRS to fill in the filing, submit it with the check on time in full? There you go, right, guys? So let's go a little bit further into what are compliance checks. So you've got specialists that conduct the checks by corresponding with or telephoning the representative from, again, in this scenario, Archewell Foundation. A specialist may inquire about an item on a return, determined if specific reporting requirements have been met, or whether an organisation's activities are consistent with its stated tax-exempt purpose. So again, their tax-exempt is completely on the line at this point. An officer or representative of an exempt organisation may refuse to participate in a compliance check without penalty. So Archewell Foundation could turn around and say to the IRS, bog off. However, the IRS then can turn around and actually then open a formal examination whether or not Archewell Foundation actually agrees to participate in the compliance check or not. So if this does happen, it's in the best interest for Archewell Foundation actually to comply with the compliance check. Now, at the beginning of a compliance check, the specialist will inform the representative then of Archewell Foundation that the review is a compliance check. They will not ask to examine any books or records or ask questions regarding tax liabilities, but they may ask whether Archewell Foundation understands or has questions about filing obligations for required forms. They may also ask questions about Archewell Foundation's activities. Now, if during this check, the IRS specialist decides that an examination is appropriate, so kicking it up a notch, right? They'll notify Archewell Foundation is commencing an examination before asking any related questions to tax liability. And so this is the thing, right? Because a compliance check only reviews whether an organisation is adhering to record keeping and information reporting requirements, or whether an organisation's activities is actually consisted with its stated tax-exempt purpose. It's not an examination, but it could turn into one, right? It is possible, though, to have more than one compliance check for a tax year if facts and circumstances warrant, which in this case potentially does, because you've got Archewell Foundation, the beginning of this week, labelled as delinquent by the Attorney General in California because they did not complete the full filing for their 2022 records because they didn't receive the check. So it's a case of, well, hang on a minute, what has fallen down in the processes in the Archewell Foundation that has not allowed them to comply with the regulations to send in their form and their check in a timely manner? So, guys, I go back to the question, is Megzy and Haz at Archewell Foundation going to be audited by the IRS? Based on my research, it ain't looking good for them. With that being said, if you appreciated this video and you want more, and believe me, of course there's going to be more, then make sure you subscribe to join our alternate tribe. I'll be honest with you, help us now get to 1 million so we can also get that gold play button right there and hopefully cause a Meghan Markle meltdown on Instagram. Like, share, comment down below your opinion, conspiracy theories, whatever's. Also as well, if you've got some very strong opinions on whether the IRS should audit Archewell Foundation or not, and I bet you do, then make sure you send me a super thanks. It's just below this video right here. We can have a conversation about this because it does guarantee a response from me. And until the next time, you guys, laters.